Well, guys, after a very messy season filled with many mistakes, did this finale make up for it? Let's find out. Hey guys, it's Kevin Yomar for the season finale of UnREAL Season 2, Episode 10, Friendly Fire. And guys, I was very worried about this finale, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, the first half of the season, I really have loved. I thought the first half of the season was really great. I really liked the direction they went in. And then they did this whole police brutality storyline, and they didn't really follow through with it. They kind of just abandoned it, and I was actually happy they did, because again, I just don't think this is the show to tackle that kind of subject. I think something more like Orange is the New Black, a show that, takes place in a prison, is better to handle that subject. This show, I just don't think is the one to do that. So I was kind of happy they did that, but I'm going to be honest, I was really worried about this finale, mainly because of how much it seemed like was going to happen here. I really thought it was going to be very messy. I thought this was going to be very unsatisfying, and to my surprise, that's exactly what it was. I mean, this finale might just be the worst episode of UnREAL we've ever had. This was messy, it was very cheesy, actually, and surprisingly very predictable. I mean, here's the reason why this finale was so bad. Like, look, the police episode, yes, it's a horrible twist. It's completely the wrong direction for them to go in, and it really was just not right for the show. I mean, I just don't think they should have done that. But that was only the last 10 minutes, so I can't really say the entire episode was terrible, because it wasn't. There were some great things about it. This episode, on the other hand, was so rushed and so predictable, and when it wasn't that, it was cheesy and really not that funny at all, and it has so many good elements to it. So many things could have helped this episode, but unfortunately, the entire episode was so rushed, and it might have just ruined the show. I honestly don't know if I'm coming back for Season 3 next year, guys, but let's just get in this episode, because I really do want to talk about it. I really want to talk, and here's how I'm going to do this review. I'm going to talk about the finale, but then I'm going to talk about how this season went wrong. What exactly happened this season? How did this season get so inherently, unwatchable? What happened here? So let's just get into it. We start off right away and things seem off. We see, Rachel goes into Coleman's office and he's just quickly apprehended of everything. These guys come in, they're taking his things, and it's really weird. I mean, it seems like it's come out of nowhere, because as we know, the end, Rachel and Quinn said they had a plan, and in this episode, they've already committed the plan, and basically, Rachel says that they've discovered that his award-winning documentary is actually a fake. No one really needed to know for sure. It turns out that Coleman is actually just as much of a fraud as Rachel and Quinn are. Now, that's a good twist. I kind of do like this idea that everything about the Cambodia, things like that, those were fake actors. I mean, I kind of like that idea. I think it's kind of cool that we found this out. But again, it just doesn't really go with the Coleman we've been seeing. And Coleman, in other words, has no credibility, we see. And if he tries to go to the press with Mary's death, the girls will sink him with news of his fake documentary. So they have all this evidence they can plant on him. He has all this evidence against them. I'm like, alright, this is going to be very interesting. We got this fight going on here. This could be really interesting. So Coleman tries to find another way to defeat Rachel and Quinn. Coleman's solution, we see, he decides to do is, we don't really know what's going to happen there. I thought that definitely was very interesting, what they were going to do. But we can see that Rachel and Quinn, they have this huge plan, because obviously what ended up happening, Quinn pretty much isn't really focused on true love right now. They're focused on making some sort of big finale. Some big finale that everyone's going to remember. And again, it's just the same thing last season. It's a very shallow way of looking at it. I mean, I get that obviously they want to ruin everyone's lives, but come on, you really want to ruin Darius after all the shit you put him through? And yes, I know that Jay said that, but that doesn't make it okay? Just because you have a character who's saying how we feel doesn't mean it's the right direction to do. I mean, I would have preferred them to just give Darius a happy ending, to just, kind of just put him out of his misery, really. I would have just done that. If they were so focused on getting rid of Coleman, why were they also so focused on ruining this finale? I mean, that's something that just didn't really work. It never really seemed like they had a true goal. Was their goal defeating Coleman, or was their goal trying to make this finale the darkest finale they've ever done? I mean, I really couldn't tell why. And I get that obviously Quinn is very hurt from a breakup with John, and that is something that I thought they did very well, showing how damaged she was from her breakup with Booth. I thought was very well done, but she wants to humiliate him and his remaining women on national TV. And her plan is to stage a live wedding and force Darius to choose between Tiffany and Chantal on the spot. That's basically what they're gonna do. And it's not the only part of the plan, though. You know, there's more to it, definitely, which we'll get into. But meanwhile, Coleman, we see, he's trying to find another way to defeat Rachel and Quinn. And what he decides to do is really weird. He goes to Jeremy, of all people, who I really don't think this was necessary at all. He goes to Jeremy, and to forge an alliance born from even further down in hell. Jeremy, because he literally is nothing, is all about it. You know, he wants to obviously, you know, hurt Everlasting and everything, and he realizes that Coleman sees who Rachel really is. And Coleman and Aiel ruin it all for Jeremy when they start callously talking about Rachel, and you know, it seems like he's on board and everything. So that's kind of going the way it is, and again, it's just very weird the way that was done, and it really just goes with this finale. Like I said, this is a total mess. If you guys can't tell already, this entire finale is an absolute mess. We can definitely tell, and there's definitely more to it that, you know, it keeps getting messier and messier as it goes on. So let's talk a little more about Darius in this episode, because this episode, here's the thing I really liked about Darius in the beginning of the season, is that he was way different from Adam. This is someone that was much more aware of what he was doing. This is someone who really wasn't okay with what he was doing. He really wanted to do things his way. This was someone who clearly isn't a dick like Adam is, and he doesn't at all have feelings for Rachel. That could have been a good character, but this episode proves that Darius was nothing more than a plot device. That's all this episode does to him, and it really sucks, because BJ Brit is a fantastic actor, and I think he's killed it all season, but unfortunately this episode, he gets nothing but a few, you know, fun lines and a few things, but whatever happened to doing things Darius's way? I don't understand why all of a sudden Quinn's able to control it. I mean, he even said to her, look, we do this my way or not at all. So why is he giving in to them all of a sudden? That didn't make any sense to me. Now, I get that obviously he doesn't know about most of this, but basically Quinn goes to Tiffany, tells her that Darius is going to pick her, and, you know, also is going to marry her, so Tiffany's freaking out and everything. We didn't get really anything with Chantal, I realized. I mean, there's really nothing going on with her. She's in this episode, but you wouldn't even notice, really. I mean, the thing I loved about last year's finale is that it really was a toss-up between the two girls. You really didn't know who was going to be. Was it going to be Grace? Was it going to be Anna? I mean, they each had some really good points. You had that great scene with Grace and Adam, you know, things like that. You had that scene with Anna, and that's something I loved about last year's finale, is that they focused on making these contestants more than just contestants. They're actually characters. And this year, they've been nothing but just ways for Rachel and Quinn to sabotage the show and make the show better. That's all they've been. They haven't had any character whatsoever, and that's really pissed me off, I have to say. I think they've really been lacking on the contestants this season, and it really does show when they barely focused on Chantal and Tiffany. And especially when you go to Chet's side of this all, I mean, what was the point of it, really? It doesn't seem like there was much of a point. Basically, Tiffany tells him that they have no future, that she's gonna go with Darius, and he's obviously upset about it. But what was the point here? They don't bring it up again after this. It doesn't seem like it's important, and honestly, I don't think Chet really should have been on this season. I never really saw his point. After the whole thing with him and Quinn and that battle was over, he should have left. I really don't think he needed to come back. He hasn't really served much of a purpose since then. It really seems like they've just been doing random things with him, and here it just seemed kind of pointless. I never was a fan of the storyline, and just because of how random it was, mainly that's why. So back to Coleman and everything. Throughout the episode, we see that, you know, Jeremy, he's on board with the plan, but then he realizes about Rachel's rape, in front of them, and all of a sudden, Jeremy seems to be the good guy, and it's completely out of character for what he's been doing, you know, this entire season. That's basically how I saw it, at least. I mean, some of the stuff he's been doing, I kind of understand, you know, with him being so rude towards Rachel, but his character all season has been against Rachel all season, so why all of a sudden is he somehow feeling bad for Rachel? It didn't really make sense to me, and it really just seemed like they wanted to make him the good guy because they couldn't make Coleman the good guy, and it doesn't really make sense. Now, yes, we are rooting for Rachel and Quinn because they're the main characters, but we actually probably should be rooting for Coleman because he's the one that wants to apprehend them. He's the one that wants to put them in jail. He's the one who could actually shake things up. But what I don't like about Coleman this episode is it's not because he feels bad for what they did to Mary or he's upset about it. That's why Yael wants to do it. He wants to do it because he wants power and he wants a job, and he wants to get revenge for them making him lose his job, and he's really childish throughout this whole episode. I really like Michael Rady, but I really did not like Coleman in this episode. He's acting extremely childish, extremely callous, and he really should just... I really did not like it at all, and it just seems like he's there to just... they're just as awful pretty much, and that's something that I thought was really dumb here, is that we kind of should be siding with them, but I'm not, because it seems like he's only there to sabotage things for Rachel, have this ridiculous back and forth with her, and basically just act like a child. I mean, I thought it was really dumb what we saw here. I really was not a fan of it. I thought it was really dumb overall, and I really did not like that. But let's get more to the plan that Quinn has established, because there's another key component here that makes literally no sense whatsoever. I don't know what that was trying to go on. I don't know what she was trying to do here. I don't know what she was trying to, accomplish here, but this made absolutely no sense to me. So, okay, so you have Tiffany, you have Chantal, they're both gonna be in wedding dresses, alright, that's fine. Then you bring Yael into all of this, and Quinn's plan with Yael is so head-scratching, and literally made no sense to me, and the second she said it, I was like, what? Because basically, she wants Yael to go on the air while he's about to pick between Tiffany and Chantal and tell Darius that Tiffany is sleeping with the ex-producer from the show. And that's what she wants that's what she wants her to do. She wants her to stir things up, and it doesn't make any sense, because here's the thing. Quinn has no feelings for Chet. Why the fuck does she care who he sleeps with? I don't know why she cares all of a sudden. She hasn't cared. Why does she care all of a sudden? It doesn't make any sense to me, and if she suddenly likes Chet, this show is really gone off the rails, and that makes no sense whatsoever. But despite all that, Rachel does go to Yael, tells her she'll be a part of this, obviously because Yael can't leave, which, that didn't really make much sense either. I mean, when Faith was eliminated last season, she left. She was able to leave. And here, she didn't get to leave. She, has been there forever. And it doesn't make much sense other than the fact that Yael is a reporter. Which, honestly, I think is probably the one mistake they should never have done. I really don't think they should have made Yael a reporter, because it just hasn't done much. The reveals come so late into the season that it just doesn't feel that satisfying. But, of course, since Yael's a reporter, she's not planning on exposing Chet. She's planning on exposing the show. Basically talking about Mary's death on the air, which, again, is extremely realistic and extremely ridiculous, and none of it would actually, work in the way they want it to. It doesn't really make any sense to me whatsoever why they would do that. I really didn't get that. So Jeremy, knowing what's going on, he decides to go to Rachel and tell her about Coleman and Yael's plan, and Rachel basically tells Rachel to try to shut it down. She locks Yael in her room until the end of the season, and Coleman refuses to surrender, fights back, and it's so childish. It really is. I can't take it seriously. It's so dumb. He tells Rachel to go with the press anyway. His plans to admit this documentary was a fake and make the public love him with a heartfelt apology. And the fact that he thinks he can do all this stuff and he's actually going to be on their side, I'm like, there's no way Coleman's going to win. There's no way. I mean, he's acting so childish. He's acting so villainous, and I just didn't understand why they had to do this. And, basically, we go to Everlasting, and basically Romeo's back, we see, which was very strange that Romeo's back. The most development he gets in this entire episode is tell Rachel, oh yeah, you hurt me, we don't talk. That's literally it, and that just shows how much the show cares, which is not at all. The show clearly did not give a fuck about Romeo, and I don't understand that at all. I mean, you had this plot with police brutality, and you don't even touch upon it. At least in the finale, I would have wanted to see at least a little bit of it, and for him to just randomly show up and be okay just made no sense to me whatsoever. Jay is the only person here that feels something bad is happening. He does care about Darius because he actually cares about him. we had this good scene as well with Rachel and Jay that I did enjoy overall. You know, she tries to get him to open up to about these feelings, basically, and Rachel decides that she's going to do something different with Darius, because she actually feels bad for Jay, and again, this does not at all go with the Rachel we've seen all season. The Rachel we've seen all season has been a lot more cutthroat and not really cared about these girls. So why at the 11th hour, when she should be focusing on taking down Coleman, does she suddenly care about Darius? I mean, it just didn't really make sense to me. I mean, that seemed like... And that's not something where I'm saying they should care about him. It's a character. It's a character. Her character has been she didn't care about any of this. So why does she care all of a sudden? Doesn't make any sense. And we see, you know, as this is going on, Darius is confronted with Chantal and Tiffany, and he realizes that he's forced to pick one of them right now. He doesn't get to, you know, he has to make a choice right then, right now, and basically another lady appears, and that is none other than Ruby. Ruby appears, and it's honestly so cheesy, I'm not gonna lie. As much as I liked Ruby's character, I just thought this was really cheesy. I would have really liked to see Darius have to choose someone that he didn't want to have to choose. I just think it would have made things a little bit more darker and make things a little bit more realistic. That's realistic, and this show has always been realistic until this police brutality storyline. Ever since that, the show's become completely unrealistic and completely gone off the rails, and basically, Jay and Rachel have called Ruby back on set. Darius is overjoyed. I do like this was Jay and Rachel's doing, that she didn't just randomly come back on set, because that wouldn't make any sense. So Darius very quickly dumps both of them. It just shows how pointless they both were. Asks Ruby to take him back. Ruby agrees, but they're not getting married, which I did kind of like. I like that in the end, Darius did get to choose Ruby. But it seemed like the show was trying to show that Ruby was the life he could never have. That either way, he'd have to make a choice. And the fact that he doesn't have to make a choice and gets to go with Ruby, I guess kind of works, because in the sense that, you know, most of this didn't really work out. And most of Darius' storyline, a lot of it's not brought up anymore, like his back and things like that. I mean, they talk about it. You know, Jay even says you need to talk about your injury at some point. I was thinking that Darius was going to, you know, stop things and talk about his injury, but he still doesn't. So Ruby agrees. They go hand in hand to a limo and to a happy life together, and that's basically all that's the end of Everlasting in this episode. That's it. You know, they're in the limo, they're happy and everything, and that's pretty much, you know, what ends up happening with that. So then we get back to, so I did like seeing Quinn's face, because everyone's so happy that everything went great, but Quinn has this just smug on her face, knowing things didn't go her way. And Quinn looks suicidal, honestly. She looks suicidal on this scene. I honestly thought she was gonna, like, try to kill herself or something, because she honestly looked very suicidal. But I really didn't know what was gonna happen here. I mean, she had a look on her face that looked like she was ready to, like, kill someone. I mean, I really didn't know what was gonna happen. I just knew in these last few minutes, something big was going to happen. I didn't know exactly what it was gonna be or what was gonna happen, but I knew something big definitely was about to happen here. And what ends up happening, really, I think, was completely the wrong direction. So, after Everlasting's over, you know, everything's done and everything, there's still, of course, unfinished business, because, you know, they have Yael locked up, Jeremy knows what happened with Rachel, you have all the pieces together, so it really does seem like they're actually going to be able to get away, and they're determined to give an interview immediately, and I was thinking, you know what? I'd like to see this side of UnREAL. I'd like to see a season of UnREAL where we deal with the damage of the first two seasons. Think of how interesting that'd be. I mean, you have all these characters coming back. You could have contestants coming back that they've ruined the lives of. We could catch up with them. I mean, it'd be really interesting, actually. I was kind of thinking, maybe I want to see a police version of UnREAL. Maybe I want to see an interrogated side. A side where you have these characters not allowed to be in their comfort zone, not allowed to be in Everlasting. I thought that'd be kind of cool, actually. But we get this really weird scene with Jeremy and Rachel where Rachel tells Jeremy it's over, there's nothing can be done, and it didn't seem like she was talking about Everlasting. It seemed like she was talking about their relationship, because suddenly it seems like Jeremy has feelings for her again. And again, it doesn't make any sense. It seems like they just brought Jeremy back so we can have some random love interest for Rachel. And I thought that Jeremy was supposed to be, you know, the life that Rachel can never have. So I get that, obviously. But it just didn't make much sense to me that randomly he's back. I just didn't really understand that. I didn't really like that at all. So they're going away, you know, they're basically attempted to give an interview, but they just don't make it there, we see. And I did like the scene. Also, Madison's braids, we see, you know, she removes her braids, and it's so anticlimactic. I don't know what the point of that was. If it was trying to show that Madison can be taken seriously or something like that. Seriously, she looked hot. I definitely will say that. She definitely looked hot, but she also had like an 80s style haircut. It was very strange, and I don't know what they were really trying to show there. If they were trying to show that Madison's tougher, I don't really know. She was acting a lot weaker in this episode, and I'm definitely more of a fan of the side of Madison we've seen all season, that competitive, fun side that actually wants to be on the same level as Quinn and Rachel. That side I liked, rather than this side, which is just weak and kind of dumb. I don't really like that side of Madison, so that really didn't make much sense either. We did get a good scene between Quinn and Rachel, where Quinn tells Rachel that despite everything she does, you know, despite how damaged she is, she's still perfect, and, you know, she's great at what she does, and to not forget that. But basically, Rachel tells her that they're done. There's no way they're going to get out of this, and I like this. I was like, all right, I like this. They're not actually going to be able to get out of this. Everlasting could be done for good. It'd be a nice change of pace for the show. But then right away, they pretty much retcon it when Jeremy comes in, tells them that he took matters in his own hands, and what we realize is that he was able to flip over Yael and Coleman's car, and it caused this fatal crash, basically. And, Yael and Coleman may be dead. No one can give evidence. You know, one of them probably has memory loss or something. And that's how the episode ends with those four sitting in a hammock, uncertain about their future. And that's how this entire thing ends. So let me be clear on what just happened. Basically, to cover up the death of someone that was accidental, that you didn't know was actually happening, because again, to be fair, it was Shia. They didn't realize what she had done with the pills and everything. You know, they didn't realize that Mary wasn't taking her pills and things like that. To cover that up, you killed 2 more people, intentionally, so that way you can keep things covered up. And it makes no sense whatsoever. It always seems like the show, they have to stick to the status quo. And if that's really what they're going to be doing, I don't know if I can watch the show anymore. I mean, this show really went off the rails, and this finale was completely the wrong way to end it. Like I said, I was ready for a change of pace. I was ready to see them clean out their office. I was ready to see them turn the light off on Everlasting, end that part of the show, do a hard reset. That's what I want to see the show do. I want a hard reset because I think it's time, and there are a lot of things they did this season that I just don't think were right, and I'm going to talk about all those things right now. So now we're going to get to what I really want to talk about the season, which is where did Season 2 go wrong? Because there are a lot of things that I just don't feel really worked. I mean, the first 2 episodes were great. I love the first 2 episodes. But episode 3 is when I started to realize things were off. They were a lot more mean-spirited, the writing got a lot more cruel, and the writing in general got a lot less impressive as it went on. It seemed like as this season went on, there were so many things the show forgot. I mean, remember the whole battle between Quinn and Chet? Oh, all of a sudden Chet likes her. You remember the whole battle between Quinn and Rachel? Yeah, that didn't work, so we're just gonna abandon that. Remember Darius's injury? Yeah, we'll never talk about it again. Remember the whole shooting with Romeo? Yeah, we'll never talk about again. That does not mean it's okay. Okay, if you did something that actually hurts the plot, make it good. Make me actually enjoy it. Make me actually get behind it. This season, it seemed like they had no ideas whatsoever. Now, I get that not all this was Sarah Gertrude Shapiro's fault, and I pretty much have gotten the sense that she has actually listened to criticism, and she has actually listened to what people have said, because she even said that Jeremy was not meant to be on this season. I think even Chet wasn't meant to be on this season. The only reason they brought them back is because Lifetime insisted, and I have to say that having Jeremy be the one to kill Yael and Coleman, if they are dead, that is, him being the one to kill them, just shows how pointless things have become. It serves no purpose whatsoever. It doesn't really do much of anything, and all it really does, in my opinion at least, is really just show how pointless this character really was. Jeremy never needed to be here. Jeremy should have gone off. We should have seen maybe a little bit this season, but not nearly as much as we did. I really think he should have been gone. None of this really was that important. And the other thing is, they never should have started this whole Yael's a reporter nonsense. I mean, it completely just took everything off the rails. It made everything go from 0 to 80, and it was not the time to do that. I mean, the thing about Season 1 that I loved is how simple it was. You had Rachel, she was going to have this future with Adam, she realized that she couldn't do that, so she wanted to produce a finale to basically ruin him because she didn't want to see him anymore because she was so upset about what he did. And then, the wedding ended up, with Anna running away, which was not their doing. They did not tell her to do that. She ran away and things like that. And then you end the season with Quinn and Rachel by each other's side, not really knowing what's going to happen, but knowing that they're going to have another season, knowing that they're going to be together. That's simplistic. This was completely messy. We barely focused on Everlasting. Honestly, we barely did because of all the mustache twirling that Coleman was doing throughout this entire episode, how childish she was acting, and really seemed to ruin this show for me. I mean, I love this show in Season 1, but Season 2, it seems like, has been so focused on tackling bigger subjects that they're just not the show to tackle them. The show is not the show to tackle police brutality. We don't need this whole threat of police every 5 seconds. I mean, it's annoying that we have that. Someone exposing them, yeah, that's kind of a cool idea. I do kind of like the idea of someone exposing them or suing them. That's something I like, but not the whole going to jail thing. That's not what I want on Unreal. What I kind of did want, like I said, though, was maybe a police, a storyline where they investigate this, where while Everlasting's going on, there's a side investigation where Coleman and Yael are interviewing people. That would be interesting. I actually kind of like to see that because, people could resurface from the show's past, and that's something else the show hasn't realized, that the contestants are just as important as the main characters, and they barely really focus on the contestants at all. The only contestants that were really that developed, I think, were really Beth Ann and Ruby. That's really it. I really can't think. Chantal wasn't that developed besides her losing a fiance and moving past that. Tiffany just had a rich dad and, was spoiled and everything. Most of them were developed, but then they were quickly booted off the show and we never saw them again. So it really didn't seem like they cared much about the contestants. It only really seemed like they cared about Rachel and Quinn. And yeah, I get that's the main relation with the show and that's supposed to be the crux of everything, but Season 1 did such a good job in making those characters human. And this season turned it from a satiring reality to turning the show into a soap opera. And that's not at all what the show's supposed to be. The show's supposed to be fun. And where's the fun? I mean, there's fun, but it's so out of place. Like Quinn laughing at Yael, shitting and everything. Alright, yeah, it was funny last week, but come on, just get over it. There are other things to laugh about. I thought it was really dumb the way they were doing that. I really did not like that at all. And that, again, really ruined things. But I think the big moment that really ruined the season was Jeremy's attack on Rachel. I think that's really when the season kind of went to shit. I think that's really when the season started to go off the rails. If that never happened, I don't think we would have been looking at this season the same way. I don't think we'd be looking at Jeremy the same way, because you can't do that with a character and then somehow get me back on board with them. Because even though Jeremy did kill Yael and Coleman, he's still a psychopath. I mean, that's still very crazy what he did. It's still very shocking, and I still wouldn't want to hang around Jeremy after something like that. I mean, obviously, he killed someone. It made things even worse. It doesn't really help anything, so I don't really think Jeremy made anything better that way. And if they were trying to get me back on his side, they failed miserably, because it just makes me, think he's more pointless, think he's more callous, and thinks he's more shallow than we ever thought he really was, really. And the fact that he somehow likes Rachel again is completely out of place. It seemed like they only did that so they could have someone be on Rachel's side, and I really did not like that at all. Thought that was very dumb, didn't understand it, and for me, that's really, I think, what ruined this season. But to be fair, I didn't hate this season. I'm going to tell you guys that right off the bat. I didn't hate this season. In fact, I loved the first 4 episodes. But it seemed like everything after episode 6 really was just like, it just went down, like, it was just, after that, everything just kind of went down. It very much plummeted very quickly, and I don't really know if they can get this show back on track. Now, like I said, Gertrude Shapiro has talked about how she has listened to fans. I think one of the things that they definitely should do and definitely should think about is turning the show into 13 episodes, because I just don't think 10 episodes were enough to do the amount of stuff they did. Think about most of the plot lines this season were either completely forgotten about or just ended very unsatisfying, and most of them ended up that way. You know, the whole thing with Derek's trying to get his way, or Quinn, Coleman and Quinn turning against each other. You know, not Coleman, Quinn, Chet and Quinn turning against each other. All of that kind of just went away and didn't really get the focus it should. Whatever happened to Rachel ratting on Quinn and Chet? That was such an interesting plot point, and we just got away from it the second these two made up, and they completely forgot about it. So I really was not a fan of that at all. I thought that was very dumb, and I didn't like what they did there. I really was not a fan of any of that. So for me, this season of UnREAL is not bad. I just thought it was extremely disappointing, and this finale might just ruin the entire show. And my grade for this finale obviously is like a C- or a D, no less than a C, no more than a C-, definitely, because it really wasn't that great. But the season as a whole, I'm still gonna give it a 3 out of 5 or a C+, because there were some great moments here. I love the first 2 episodes. The first 2 episodes really had so much potential, and they really made it seem like it's going to be a very different season that was going to go a lot more in depth with characters, was going to go a lot more in depth and make the contestants a lot more interesting, but it just didn't deliver in the way it promised, and unfortunately because of that, it ended up being maybe the most disappointing thing I've watched all summer, I have to say. I used to love this show, but after this episode, I don't really know if I can ever watch this show again. Moving forward, I don't know what my future is for this show. I don't know if this is my last review. I don't know if I'm going to be watching the show again. I just don't know. After something like this, it's very hard to bring it back. Unless there's some sort of consequence, which I doubt there's going to be. I don't know if I'm returning for a season 3. I just don't know. If the show tries to change things up and maybe goes in a different direction, that I'll like. But if we're back to Everlasting, I swear to God, I'm probably just going to leave, because that's really going to piss me off if we are. I don't really know what's going to happen next season. But overall, guys, that's really it. That's all I really have to say about this season. This finale was a complete mess. It ruined everything, got everything wrong, really. Every bad thing that could have happened. Every wrong thing they could have done, they did wrong. And it just completely goes, completely just took the show even more off the rails than it already was. But let me know what you guys thought of this finale. Love to hear your thoughts on it. What do you think of this season overall? How can the show fix itself in season 3? Is it possible they can do that? And I will see you guys in my next video, which will be for a classic movie review, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.